Welcome back to the deep, deep snows of Russia, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing playthrough of, yes, WarPlan. You knew it because of the title of the video. But yes, maybe not all of it's deep, deep snow. And yeah, I come down here, not all of it is snow, but definitely the Eastern Front is living up to its name. Now, getting ready for the Allied turn, but I did notice down here, and I think we will, is, yes, we're going to do some naval strikes. Damage 2, okay, good. And damage 2 more. Okay, I wish that pop-up would stay there longer, maybe in a... I'm still playing on a very early version just because I haven't wanted to restart or to get through this, so maybe that's changed, but I would like that. So yeah, okay, that last one did damage us a little bit, but we were doing some damage to them. Teach them not to have their fleet so near us, maybe. Don't know how well AIs learn. There are, I guess, what they call heuristic AIs and whatnot that might actually learn, but I think we're going to connect these two units here. I know we're not planning on doing ground attack. Oh man, that fleet core is bad shape. Well, you know, let's be about 20 supply. I don't know if that's going to help, but well, let's start. Oh, they're all in bad shape. Yeah, maybe I should just let these guys sit, but no. We're going to strike them. Oh, good. That seemed to hurt them some. Not just an organization, maybe two. Not just in organization levels, which is a real thing, but also in actual. Oop, now that we took some air losses. Hoping these guys, if that, I don't think that was a specific interception. I'm just a bit worried for springtime offensives. Whether this is going to be springtime for Hitler or springtime for Stalin, I don't know. I don't think we're going to be seeing any time. I think it's already too late for a winter counteroffensive. But yeah, still a bit of a thing. Okay, you know, we have some deployments still to do here. I think this is, it's been a week since I last played this. I think part of my reason, or sort of my, where are these going to go? Oh, bad will be. I think we need the Panzer Corps down. Well, we already have one. We're going to have Panzer Army Africa. Well, theoretically, we sort of already have that. A 3 Infantry Corps and a Panzer Corps. If they land in Europe, you know, D-Day, we see a couple American. I think that's Canadian. Not sure. But, well, we see, look over here in Canada, is that their color? Yeah, it's the color of Canada. Okay. And these are, I guess, where we can tell that that's like a light, I guess we call it fighter, where these are bomber. Yeah, we really need that backing up sound, but yeah, okay. You know, we have some intelligence on what some of these are. These are just known and inhabited, known air unit stationed there or something. We know that. We don't know what type or strength or any of that kind of detail. And we of course, we have the submarine here. So U.S. forces, I presume, shall be coming here. If they were to land, I don't know how well. Maybe I should be guarding up here too. Just don't know how. I'm used to playing some of like Hearts of Iron, in which they've actually sort of scripted out landings up here for several reasons. One is it's yeah, Germany can well, as you all know, and I know I've complained about this, the idea of the reserve forces that don't get moved to the front, that whether it's humans or AIs, would be moved to the front if you had, that would be ready to come and fight here. Sort of like we have this, but I mean all over. And of course, landing in here would cause serious problems, meaning there's enough forces to oppose, not stop a landing, but to oppose it, meaning it's not going to be, free run, charge to Berlin, no defenses. We're looking, at historically or in reality, there's enough forces training operating here to give them a fight, while they very, very rapidly move a lot of forces to deal with it, and a lot of air power and whatnot just would be happening in this area. We're coming up to Norway. It's unsupported. It's a long range for an invasion, but it's and I'm not talking like the sort of German invasion up here, which was just a few brigades, or not even brigades, a few battalions worth of troops. I'm talking, a corps type worth of invasion. That's a lot of support elements. Coming in here would just be coming into a cauldron of attack. But I probably could, maybe we'll move the Berlin garrison. Okay, we'll close this. Let's move the Berlin garrison right up that way. We'll keep them on the train here. Ready to move somewhere else, but we can very quickly put a fair amount of force. Obviously, in one turn, it has to be on the rails and connected and able to move, but we could do quite a bit of force fairly fast to a reaction. We also have that. To a reaction in Europe, but it's down here they have to get on and off boats. I'm just thinking. Wargamers. I remember one of my history professors, I ended up not liking him very well. He studied American history and whatnot, but one of his, friends or acquaintance, he brought him up, I think, in only one lecture, but he really derided him. And the guy was a war gamer, and it wasn't deriding him because he was a war gamer, but he derided him because of the what if factor. The history professor that I had, he was all about studying what was. And that's not a bad thing for a history professor. He was just all about, well, what happened in 1743, July 3rd or something. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, that's, I know what happened in other dates, but in years within, say, 10 or 20 years, but I don't know what happened right then. And it wasn't necessarily like the year date, but what was, happening, and maybe the dates aren't, they were important to him, but aren't the things, but the actual facts of history. All of the sort of what ifs of history just did not interest him. That was one of the things. Not the only thing, but one of the things that soured me to him. And I left the class. He was also very condescending. I bet you didn't know this about history, something about history. Bet you didn't know, or words to that effect. And so, yeah, I knew that. You're just being a condescending asshole. Yeah. Now, probably 9 out of 10 of his students didn't know most of those facts, and I didn't know every one of his facts. God, yeah, he was doing that too. But some of them I did. Just his style. Also just his lecture style. Just couldn't take. But so he's not interested in the what ifs of history. And for me, and I look at this channel as teaching the important lessons of history. Not historical lessons. Note the difference. Important lessons of history, not historical lessons. You can go read a book. That's probably the best way. I mean, going to a primary source, original source documents is great if you're a historian and digging super deep into it. But if you're just trying to understand what happened in history, reading a book, there's better and worse books, of course, and not necessarily better and worse is thicker. Sometimes I have some really great pamphlet type books that are like 20 pages, but they just cover one little thing, a battle, and that there's not huge amounts of information on. But it's some really good stuff in the 20 pages. But it's so a book is probably one of the best. But also, which I also get a lot of my history from, are documentaries and things like that. And if you want a good history lesson, that's not what you should come to my channel for. Because I'm just talking off the top of my head, so I'm sure I'm getting facts and details wrong. Plus, there's probably good parts of the story that if I had at least an outline in front of me when I start a talk, with some date fact, some hard facts as part of the outline, I could do a much better job. I could do a nice history talks that way. I don't read script well. Whenever I've tried, it comes off stilted and bad. I'm sure. Well, I think I could learn to do it better than I do now, but that's not the point. The point is I don't do it well. I like to converse with you, but I could do it with an outline. No, what I want to teach is, not that the pan is hot, but what happens when you touch the pan. You get your fingers burnt because it's hot. It's that type of thing that I want to teach, and not that it's related. Well, it's nothing we're dealing with here so much is related with the chaos going on in many parts of the Western world right now. But I would say a lot of that is going on is because people haven't learned the lessons of history, both those that are causing the chaos and those that have not worked to stop it. And I don't mean just stop it in the last 6 months. I mean in the last 20 years, letting evil teachers into the classrooms. And I will say, they talk about how racist America is. Okay. Show me a less racist country that's of any significance that we can talk about. And I mean, you might go, well, Andoria, little thing along the border here, is entirely unracist. All 100 people or something that live there. I don't know. But, or, I'm talking, or something like that might or might not be less racist than America. But America's, in my opinion, the least racist country on the planet. Change my mind. I would be happy to change my mind. That's still not going to make me think America isn't great. It's going to be, I'm sure, in the top 10 least racist countries still. But so, the racial problems within America and America's history absolutely do exist. But they're taught in a vacuum against the idea of a perfection or a utopia of what it should or is being or whatever. And so, yeah, we've allowed these things to fester and not to be addressed because, well, in theory at least, it's the people are in charge in America, not the leaders. But the people can't, quite honestly, and this is why democracy is a pure or emotional or direct, maybe direct would be the good term. Democracy is a bad idea. That's why republics, constitutional republics like the United States, are a good idea. Because people live their daily lives, whether it's work, family, fun. They're not wanting to deal with this. They sort of are going to, especially on the scale of America, need to outsource the actual leadership of America to the political and social and cultural elites. You have to. And elites in America aren't, God, if you look at it, aren't people born elite in very many, if not most cases. Oh, sure, there's the son of a university professor is maybe more likely to become a university professor than a son of a, we'll say, ditch digger or something. But there are, trust me, university professors that are sons of ditch diggers, and they're not that or equivalent sort of jobs that rare in America. So you don't need to be born an elite. It's more likely to be an elite than actually holding an elite type position than, thank you, backing up truck, than others. But still, it's not a requirement, and there may be more people coming from non-elites than are coming from elites, that are actually in significant positions in America. But we'll get back to the topic of the lessons from history. That's what I want to teach is, you ignore a problem too long, say like Hitler, he gets too firmly in power, you have to deal with the full consequence of Hitler in power in Germany. Now, they learned their lesson. They learned the lesson in dealing with Czechoslovakia. Hitler didn't learn the lesson, and Hitler was bad at international politics. Very, very good at German national politics. Very, very bad at international politics. That they learned their lesson over Czechoslovakia, especially once the rest of it was occupied, but they had woken up. And so they drew the line at Poland and started the war then, as opposed to, they're just fighting over Poland, we'll leave them to that, and then, wait 6 months, 2 years, whatever it might have been, and then they come storming and be even worse and be ready to take out England and have it be even worse. So they did learn a lesson eventually there. But to learn those lessons of history, I guess especially, you notice, I know I have some lefties watching. Now, some of you are lefties, but are rational lefties, but you notice supposedly Putin's puppet Trump, compared to the Obama administration, I have not seen, maybe it's just not reporting the news, but I do follow some other non-American news type sources. I've not seen, to take that, make sure we have rail connectivity. Let's take that and move you back to there, I guess. Any major or significant or however you want to say it, moves by Putin compared to the Obama administration. He's not moved on Georgia any more than he had before. He's not pushed any harder, to my knowledge, into Ukraine. They're still fighting around Mariupol or whatever around here, I believe, but he hasn't pushed any harder on that. He hasn't tried to gobble up Baltic states. I haven't seen any, he's still, yes, messing around in Syria and whatnot. But I've not seen a major move by Putin because Trump is in office. Is Trump a Putin puppet? Is he indeed? That's just drawing it funny, I think. Why aren't we just had got to here? Very bad way. You come up to here. Yeah, might as well just take that out. And there's our HQ up there, and there's one down there. Just really to be pushing. So, because I was very much, get back to what I was talking about. I know you're here to watch the game, at least most of you are. I still do have an interest in playing the game, trust me. That Trump is Putin's puppet. But I have not seen major moves by Putin since Trump's in office compared to Obama. Now, we have some clips that Obama is saying some things to Medvedev. Oh, God, it's a hard name for us to pronounce in the West. But, no, I was very much worried of a Chamberlain-esque element with Obama, in that Obama caves and Putin thinking that Obama is always going to cave. And I know Obama wasn't always going to cave. I know that. I'm not one of these people with Obama derangement syndrome. Everything Obama does must be bad because it's Obama. No, not that. But that he was caving so much, but that Putin would rip some line across somewhere so much, so badly, that Obama would really do something about it and cause a much wider war. And it maybe get to the point that whether we're going to let you heal up a bit more. Whether Putin could theoretically pull back, he might feel that he's pushed so far, the only way is forward and keep pushing and cause a real serious problem. Again, lessons from history, not historical lessons. You can get that somewhere else. And so that, I am interested in minutia of things of history that don't necessarily teach us lessons You know, what does a particular badge or award look like from whether it's Britain or Germany or wherever in World War II? That isn't teaching us lessons. That's just historical sort of antiquarianism, but just historical, interest in things and whatnot, and that's really cool, and I'm into that too. But I'm also, or I'm more interested in the what can history teach us that is continuing to be useful, and that is very much where I see if we were to. No, we have a bunch. See, oh no, they moved this turn. Okay, and then attacked and whatnot. Sure. And so that is what I want to deal with this channel, is lessons from history, not so much historical lessons. What can we learn? What is useful? Okay, now okay, we have 2 cores ready. We have a mechanized core coming in March, and then some divisions, and then more late March, another core. Okay, well, I'm going to go with, I'm making my choices. This mech core is probably going to be reasonably decent in being able to fight Western allies, and if in, say, April or May or June we are hit with a massive 4 or 5 cores of American armored divisions down here in Africa, we're not going to win anyways. Unless we've completely defeated the Soviet Union by that point, we can't win down here. And just putting more forces down here just creates the lesson of Tunisia. Maybe next episode we can talk about. Yeah, we've talked enough. But recognizing one of the lessons of Tunisia is, had they sent the reinforcements that they later sent, both Italian and particularly German reinforcements that they sent to Tunisia. Now, there's some reasons they can put them to Tunisia. Okay, what the hell? We're going to talk about this. One thing I was starting and I've thought about is various generals that I admire. Montgomery was very un-Rommel-esque, very un-Patton-esque. I'm not going to say he needed to be a set-piece general, everything set up just right and then trigger it. I mean, that's the way he wants to fight. And who doesn't want to fight? If you're busy sinking with either air attacks, sub or surface attacks, the enemy, because time is normally not on your side in war, just letting it sit. But combination of the sort of development of boogeyman of Rommel and the Africa Corps that set into the troops that the British had, as well as I guess just sort of the defeatism, if you will, facing that. But you don't really want to wait too long to strike at your enemies. And Montgomery does know this. I've read his book. But you have the situation where the Axis, both Italians and Germans, are supplying into North Africa. And I don't mean sending supplies as in the railheads, because obviously Germany was doing lots of that. I mean shipping or air transport. So they were both doing that. Germany, not so much on the ship side. I think a little bit, because Kriegsmarine, they did take over Greek and Yugoslav and whatnot ships, but much more on the air side, air transport across the ways. And so Montgomery is sitting down here building up his forces, building up his supplies ready for the attack. And yes, basically all of those supplies are coming the long way around. He is getting some naval reinforcements through the center here, but all the real sort of supply ships are stopping at Malta, and the others are continuing on in some cases, in a few cases, to the Eastern Mediterranean. So Montgomery can wait is because they're sub-sink transports. They're air attack sink transports. Their surface fleets are, I don't really know how much they were engaging, but they were definitely around here, partially just ready to face off against any major Italian naval surface operations. And of course, the air units were going after sort of the air bridge that was happening down from Crete down into Tobruk or somewhere. I don't know if they had forward air bases that were specifically flying in supplies, but there was some of that. Now, my understanding is that, we'll call it the Axis, sent enough supplies to support the troops needed for the operations in North Africa. The problem is not all of the supplies made it. They sent enough, meaning it leaves port and whatnot and comes down to here, or comes out here, but good chunks of it get sunk. I don't know right off the head. Again, don't come here for historical lessons. Come here for lessons from history. Because I don't have those facts. I don't know the percentage of supplies sent versus received into these ports. I just don't know that. But I understand basically that they were sent enough. But just enough, particularly by the Germans. But, had they sent more supplies? And part of this can be seen in that the Italians are, shall we say, constantly scraping up enough more ships. Maybe not as good ships. Maybe not as, a tanker vessel gets sunk. The next vessel out, that's going is filled with, 55-gallon drum fuel drums instead of a tanker because it's just a regular cargo ship. Specialty ships, whatever. They're getting sunk. They're putting them on less and less suitable ships, most assuredly. But they're still finding more and more ships to do that. But what that tells me is that you could have a bigger convoy, put a few more destroyers, because they're constantly running destroyers all over the place, doing all kinds of missions, but concentrate a few more of those, and just make sure that the convoy gets through, maybe fully protected, because you have enough destroyers, whatever enough is. Oh, we don't need you here anymore. And yes, when I normally play on my own, I play much slower, looking around. Still forget things like this, but we'll send you that way. Whatever enough means, but because the British were using I don't know, the term might be a kill box or something in a more modern thing. Is that was sort of used over Iraq, in that one fighter was given maybe like an X worth of space, and you go kill anything in it, and another one's given this one, and and so that they all and then rotate in and out, so they're not conflicting with each other, not double striking a unit or whatever, or a particular tank. And so that they were in one area, or a squadron given a kill box, and the guy up there is coordinating it, or whatever it might be. Again, don't come to me for historical lessons, come for lessons about history. That the submarines were given a patrol area, like this, and another one was given like this, and then another one was maybe given down here, so that they wouldn't bump into each other, at least not too much. And there was definite, at times, and part of that is so that you have one maybe here, one here, one here, so that anything they can't, they'll catch the One of them will catch a convoy. And yes, they heard either underwater or surface type on surface explosions, or saw other activity around, and definitely moved maybe outside of their supposed patrol areas to get to it. Now, of course, part of the reason was they didn't tell the submariners any of this is their specific area assignments, is because they did get some routing information and whatnot through the ultra codes to know the basic path of movement, so you didn't need to watch over here if you knew the ships were over here, kind of thing. But as opposed to specific sort of wolf pack tactics, and part of that is, and particularly though after a while they had to leave Malta, but a lot of the subs were coming out of Malta, and we're looking at Crete here, but a lot of the stuff was coming sort of this way here, and so there was just like 5 or 6 subs or something, or even less, actually operating at any, or meaning not necessarily operating at any one time is out in the ocean, but I mean is stationed in Malta, 5 or 6 subs. It wasn't lots of ships, subs. It wasn't big fleets of them, so they weren't really able to normally do. And some are like 2 or 3 are out, and 1 or 2 are, they would in Malta, because of aerial reconnaissance and attacks, and they would do air attacks, at least for a considerable part of the time. Is submarine would I know this is talking on, I'm sorry, this is going to be a talking episode. We'll get to some maybe gameplay next episode. The submarines come into Valletta Harbor, or the Greater Valletta Harbor, which is huge, and the Germans and the Italians knew where the sort of submarine base area part of it was, but you could put a submarine anywhere in it, and they would want to, of course, come to bomb. Well, what they would do is they bring the submarine in, try to bring the stuff in and out at night, but if it needed to come in the day, it would. Now, of course, the Italians are going to get, from the British, at least by the, shuts down, to the best of my knowledge, any sort of spy network in Malta, or at least their ability to radio anything out. But they still have aerial reconnaissance and whatnot going on. And so what they would do is do all of their work at night and try to use big tarps or whatever to cover external work that needed light, and of course turn them off if there's an air raid in progress. But in daylight, what they would do is they'd leave a skeleton crew on board the submarine and sink the submarine to the bottom of the harbor, not right in the exact, next to the dock, where they would do the loading and unloading of supplies and maintenance or whatever, but they would do a little maneuvering somewhere and then sink it down, so when the reconnaissance flights come over in the day, they wouldn't see any subs around to think that there's any subs in port, or if there were, they couldn't be attacked because you don't see them. So they would sink their own subs during the day. Oh, and at times at night, I believe, if I remember my readings right, if there was a major air raids going on, they would move the sub and put it under the water somewhere. Submarines do that kind of thing. And so they were, and so that, of course, delays repair, maintenance, restocking work before going out there. So they don't have, say, normally at least 6 submarines to go out and wolf pack a particular convoy, but they can definitely go out and resupply, even to over here in Alex, as they called it, resupply of torpedoes or whatever is a thinnish thing. They're getting them. They're getting them into Malta, but Malta's a little more of a tricky thing, getting torpedoes into there. But so you can't necessarily, you don't want to come in and just spam a bunch of torpedoes out at a bunch of different ships, hoping that one of them will get hit. Especially with one ship gets hit with torpedoes, all the other ships in the convoy are going to start driving in different directions, because they think there may be a torpedo coming to where they either are or were going to be. So it's not like, oh, a submarine gets in there and gets to sink all 4 cargo ships necessarily. They're lucky if they get or they get 1 or 2 even. And if you had lots of destroyers around them, they may not be able to effectively get in close enough to launch torpedoes if they're zigzagging enough to get hits on them effectively. So the Italians could readily have made a strong enough convoy. Now, if they concentrate enough of their forces, they're also worried about the Royal Navy coming out in strength and attacking it, kind of thing. So, but the lesson we're looking at is they had enough vessels, they had enough destroyers. They might have still taken losses, but it's better to take the losses, making sure your armies are well supplied so that they actually get to Alex and Port Said and cut off resupply of torpedoes and aviation fuel and whatnot to here. Do that today, so take higher losses today, but ultimately as the war goes on, take less shipping losses. Lose 4 ships today instead of 20 ships over a week or whatever, and have the victory happen after 4 losses instead of the defeat happening after 20 losses, kind of thing. And that's sort of the lessons of Tunisia. Now, I'm sure some, especially the German air bridge, which took massive amounts of losses, was more effective coming into Tunisia, which they didn't do. And I don't know how much it would have helped them out here, doing an air bridge over here. But while it was still under Vichy French control, they didn't use that, into Tripoli or Benghazi. But I do know there was something of a air bridge to North Africa through Crete. I don't like the giants or the gigants or however you want to say that, those big gliders that they put engines on them that could haul tanks. I don't know the fuel capacity and range now, at least of a standard loadout. I am sure you could put enough fuel on board one of those things with some sort of ability to switch between, 55-gallon drum fuel tank fuel, to fuel the engine to fly. They have enough lift capacity, shall we say, to enough fuel to get across here. But the question is how much fuel do they have to carry to how much supplies that actually get delivered. And the longer the flight, the harder it is to do it all at night. But if you're also doing it here and you're able to fly escorts for it, I know both the 109 and I'm not sure if as short-legged, but the Focke-Wulf 190 is fairly short-legged. But, you do have, which interceptor aircraft, not great fighter aircraft, but interceptor aircraft, you do have the 110s, and all 3 of those eventually, I think, get drop tank technology on them to extend their range somewhat. But, flying from an airbase over here over to here versus flying from an airbase over here to over here, it's not quite the same distance-wise. And this map isn't 100% correct in its hex-based world. But my point is that, again, the lessons here, if you were flying flying supplies in this way, they're probably not as vulnerable to air attack. And of course, if you have all the fighters, it's better to use your fighters today. Use 200 fighters today instead of 100 fighters tomorrow. Over here, push in. So it's only the true realization that the North Africa front is going to be lost, and it's not just going to be lost to because that was sort of the original plan, was just, sort of hold out and for, Italy here, just to sort of keep the British busy. But if it collapses, well, that's just the British. But now that you had the Americans in, they needed to really reinforce into here instead of sending the forces in versus the Soviet Union. Well, and of course, they could have shut a lot of that down by sending the forces in earlier, knocking out, and it wouldn't have taken more than one or two more divisions put in at the right time with the amount of supplies, and I'm thinking, looking at particularly German divisions, to knock the British out and take, if you had given early enough, and I don't right now know the date, but enough maybe to take Tobruk when the main battle of Tobruk was happening or something, but put them in early enough and whatnot, two more divisions. I don't see Rommel not being able to take this. How far would he have been able to push down, into, Sudan or not, or would he even want to? I don't know. But closing that up, and then maybe once the Americans are in, say, I don't know what to say. This is now part of the Nuovo Romano Imperium down here, however you would say it in Italian, or say, nope, that's all going to get to be French. And all Italian forces are staying over here. We're just deploying some German neutrality guarantee forces, maybe, occupied. You'll get it back after the war, and what they could have even done is like, we're going to stage withdrawal out of some of the occupied zone. Not maybe giving up Paris or critical coastline for defense, but we'll unoccupy a little bit of actual French territory for, well, this was sort of they claimed it as actual French territory, but you know what I mean. Just as not taking it over and entirely leaving the French civil administration in power, in operation, just sticking some German neutrality guarantee forces there. Had they done something like that, which obviously here in this is sort of what we've done, but we sort of invaded it for Italy, and I don't know. But so as the lessons from history, that's what I want to look at, and why I do this, and what fascinates me about history. There's so many lessons to be learned here. So many lessons. And on both sides of the I think more lessons than like on the Eastern Front. Not just like battles are lessons, but yeah. Okay, well, we're going to end this episode here. I know with no real gameplay, I'm going to have to tag this as just a rambling episode so that those who don't want to watch it can skip it, and those that really, and they'll come back next episode for more gameplay. Sure, some talking, but mostly just gameplay. I want to thank all of you who made it this far. I hope this is interesting to you. I love hearing your comments on the subject. See you next time for more historical gaming.